We have a lot on the, and we have some people that need to leave by 8:30. So I want to make sure we keep this rolling and can end at a reasonable time. So first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Can you start us out with roll call, please?
Cynthia Batty,
Kristen Zumar, Margot Rain, Ray Rivera.
Tim Gibbs.
Vera Worthy.
We have a quorum. The next order of business is approval of the minutes. Do I have any comments or corrections to the minutes from October 23rd?
I had one, which is, I'm so happy to see Bree here. Hi. But I'm not sure Bree was a member on that date. I was not.
She was a member, but she wasn't here.
But you couldn't make it.
She was absent.
All right, yeah, I just didn't know. All right, cool.
Is that your only question?
That's my only question.
Cool. Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Okay. They're approved. Review City of Newcastle ordinance for site plan review and approval. I included in your packets the regulations regarding what's required for the site plan approval process. Do you want to speak to that for a minute?
Yes, what's in your packet is a portion of the zoning ordinance, chapter 230 of the city code, subsection 46, regarding the review and approval of site plans. And that's what we have in front of us tonight as item number 5. So these are the regulations within the zoning ordinance that dictate the number 1, the general criteria that the planning commission shall use when reviewing site plans. And secondly, the site plan process, starting with the potential submission of a concept plan, and then the submittal of a site plan. And these regulations were overhauled about 2 years ago to write the section that you have in front of us. So it defines the overall criteria, it defines the process, and somewhere it will refer to a checklist that includes all of the site plan requirements. And the checklist is it's not an end in itself, it's just a means for making sure that the site plans have all of the appropriate information. In general, the planning commission has the authority to review and approve or disapprove site plans. Once approved, the site plan also needs to go to city council. That's something that we changed a couple of years ago. If the site plan includes the dedication of public improvements, streets, public open space, city council needs to review and approve the site plan via an ordinance. If there's no public improvements involved, they can do so with a resolution. The site plan process as written was modeled somewhat off of the county process. The city council's role is administerial, somewhat perfunctory. It does give the city, this language in the ordinance in the zoning code does give the city council the authority to remand the site plan back to the planning commission with questions or for further information, one or two times. The theme here is that the bulk of the authority for site plans and the meat of the review of the site plan rests here. And the city council's role is to defer a lot to the planning commission's action on a particular site plan.
And item B clearly states the purpose of the site plans to ensure detailed compliance with applicable provisions of enacted regulation and to prescribe standards for the design and construction of site improvements. Development requiring site plan approval shall be permitted only in accordance with all specifications contained on an approved site plan and shall not be undertaken until the site plan is approved. Max?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I wanted to add one kind of important thing that we added when we revised the regs, that this language rolls in the review and approval of other agencies into this process. It's not separate. It's not one thing's done here and then somebody goes off and does something else. It's our responsibility here, or the planning commission's responsibility here, to make sure that you get information or you gather input about the status of other approvals, because this is just the surface. This site plan is just the surface of all of the plans and permits and applications and studies that the applicant has to do for the county, for sanitary sewer, for the MS water, soil conservation district, for stormwater, just to name a few. So we should want to know the status of those other various plans and approvals, permits, as part of our role in reviewing and approving site plans here.
Yeah, so here's the bottom line is, if the site plan, don't think we'll have a dispute, we haven't talked about, but if the site plan meets all the requirements of the code, you're required to approve it. However, you can't approve it with conditions. Those have to be constitutional conditions. In other words, you can't have an unconstitutional condition. If you propose an unconstitutional condition, I'm here, I will stop you.
And I'm assuming an unconstitutional condition would be something like it can only be approved if you have a Walmart in that place, something like that, right?
I was thinking statute of Zeus.
Yeah.
There you go.
The classic example, I'll just take from a case, that's a classic one. It was somebody wanted to build a house, a beachfront house. And they conditioned the approval of the building on them giving them 20 feet for public access for other people to get to the ocean, right? They wanted an opening there,
20 feet.
20 feet. And so at the end of the day, they said there wasn't a proportionality between the exaction. What's that?
Rational nexus.
Well, in that case, that was South Carolina, the Lucas. So that was actually proportionality. That came later in Nolan versus Dolan, but you're exactly right. Anyway, long and the short of it is, you can't have something that makes somebody give up a right that they would otherwise have that wasn't in relation to the development that they were proposing. That's a shorthand of it. I don't think we're gonna get there tonight. Just
I hope not.
So no statutes of Zeus, okay. That's the point.
All right, the site plan for 427 West 7th Street, who's presenting that? Okay.
My name is Bill Wendman from Mid-Atlantic Engineering. And I'm sure this has been reviewed before, so I'm here to address the comments that we received, technical comments that were in the letter.
Okay.
I can go through each one of them as you want. I can read through them. I have to tell you,
So which letter are we talking about?
is a letter we received on Thursday on.
Thursday.
That letter addressed the chair. First.
Okay, so basically the entire front end of this is background procedure and administrative. If you want me to go through each one of those comments, I can, but there's no real response from our end. The only one that we've addressed based on what we've asked is the current submission of all the different agencies where we're at and where we're at. So I can go through each one of those relatively quickly.
Okay.
Site access permit from Del Dot. They've been submitted. We've had some comments back.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Would it help to step back and just give a brief overview of what's being proposed?
Yeah,
You haven't seen this. overview.
I've seen none of it. I'm.
Okay.
So
Not a problem at all.
Like,
a bird's eye view kind of in the,
Sure. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so. I'll do this. Sure. This is West Seventh Street, Washington Avenue's down here. There's a single access point to the front of this. This is the old Gambit Quarter property, or portion of it. I think it's split down between this building and this line right here. So this is what's going to remain as the old Gambit Quarter, and this is the older piece. There's a channel that runs out. Delaware River's on the east side. South side is a relatively new development apartment complex. North side is the old auto repair shop and some other, I think some other buildings in there and vehicles. There's a single access point on 7th Street. There's very limited frontage. There's an emergency access, a stabilized emergency access that runs up the north side of the property. There's two buildings. One is what we call the shorter building, oriented east-west. And that's a 3-story building with parking underneath of it. And then there's a longer building which runs the length of the south side of the property and the east side of the property. Again, that's parking underneath 3 stories of apartments. There's a retail on the site today, and that's going to be moved inside the front of the building here. This is a piece of property that's not part of this overall property that is owned by the city right now. And this is a piece of property that is a portion of this property that actually has a county pump station on it.
oh,
Okay, so there's some challenges with frontage and things like that. So there's very limited frontage on 7th Street. There's a little bit of frontage on Umbrella Row. There's 152 apartments and roughly 3,000, a little bit less than 3,000 square foot of retail on the first floor. There's 228 parking spaces right now. We've gone through variances to,
228.
yes, 228 spaces. Again, most of the spaces are underneath of the buildings. Okay, so that's the real quick overview.
Is the liquor store gonna be the only retail in there?
So my understanding is yes.
Okay.
Currently, yes. This is like today.
Oh, yeah.
We know it well.
So.
So there's
Basically,
no allotted space for any additional retail.
correct.
And that's mainly due to the limited area on 7th Street.
I'm sorry, you are
Okay,
Steve Weathers.
Steve?
just from 9th Street Development, the owner, the developer of the property. We're raising the entire site up about 7 feet to get it above the flood elevation, to get the floor above the flood elevation at elevation 12. Right now, the south side of the property is at elevation 9 for the FEMA, and the north side of the property is at elevation 10. So right through the middle of this property, it splits, it raises a foot. So we've done everything to the 10 elevation, so we have the site raised up. So what that requires is that there's a wall basically encompassing almost the entire site that has to hold the dirt in it and allow us to raise the property up. Okay, and again, that's anywhere from, I think, 3 foot to 7 foot high.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the back part, we're gonna use some natural stone and gabions along the sides. It's going to be a concrete wall, either cast in place or yeah, it's either gonna be poured concrete or it's going to be fleet back. I'm not sure exactly what's gonna happen. Pardon me?
Encompassing the whole perimeter.
Just about, okay, where we hit the street and it's not as bad because we have to get back down to grade. I think the grade along the front of it is 6. We're raising the site up to 12. So This is a rendering.
Here's your wall coming down on the street.
And that's the emergency exit that.
Yeah, that's the emergency, access for the fire marshal. The fire marshal and the fire chief both have looked at this plan and they told us it's okay.
And that frontage is the liquor store?
Correct.
Yeah, it's commercial.
Hold the two up for. So obviously, you know,
This
that is,
is right here.
Now, is there parking under both the buildings?
Correct. There's some there's some podiums that come down to the grade level that allow the residents in and out of, you know, in the different areas of the building, but generally it's going to be open on all three sides and
Okay, and so that access road, there's access to that from that back parking lot, right? So that in the event of an emergency, they can all get out if the main road is blocked, right?
that's correct.
Okay. Okay,
It's going to be some sort of stabilized paver or something. It's not going to look exactly like an access, but it'll work as one.
okay,
Okay.
And just to play on that, there's also access to get back side of the building, stabilized access, just in case anything happens back there.
okay. Where does that go to?
It just basically goes to grass in the back and we can work with the fire marshal to see if he wants something to stabilize the subsurface or not. We're trying to keep believe it or not, we're trying to keep as much green as we possibly can.
So that's good.
I apologize. A little bit under the weather, but, this piece back here is the Delaware River. It's the tidal area of the Delaware River. We're not touching that at all. Okay, so that's just going to remain undisturbed. And our limit of disturbance basically is this darker line that runs through the back here. Yeah.
Does that address the concerns about the escapement? Because there was some talk about 100 feet of escapement. I read all the documents quite carefully. I wasn't really clear how that was all gonna work.
I'm not familiar with that comment. I thought between where the ecology area was and the construction, there had to be a space of some dimension. You're talking about a buffer?
Buffer, maybe that's what it's.
It
And-
doesn't exist for this.
Right, because it's like the county requires it, but the city of Newcastle doesn't.
Doesn't, oh,
Yeah, this doesn't exist for
right,
this.
that I didn't understand when I read the paper.
Yeah, I had to look at that a couple of times. to figure it out.
But still, there's something there. Even though it's not required. Okay, good.
Well, there is. I mean, this is actually, there's wetlands that can be disturbed that go up into this area here. We're gonna fill those in.
Yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers gave you permission to do
They are aware that we're going to do it. We haven't submitted yet.
that. Okay.
Okay, based on their standards, we can do what we're trying. We're allowed to do what
Okay.
we're proposing to do. We cannot go back in here and touch them.
so Commissioner Batty, you were looking at, must have been looking at the plus comments,
Yes.
and they have a section. The first half of their comments are typically the requirements. And then the latter portion are recommendations with additional information, so, DENREC recommended, a 100-foot vegetative buffer from the edge of the wetlands, but, we see that a lot. And they say that a lot, but it's not a requirement in our code or in their code.
Okay. But it looks like it's kind of there anyway.
We're giving it some buffer, some green space in the back.
Thank you for fixing my words. It's too many words.
Have you gone, in front of OA, the alcohol board yet? Because I know when you change now,
I don't know the answer to that.
I know when you you can't even move a cash register in a liquor store without getting approval.
This has not gone for them yet,
So there's no approval on the possibility that the new plan.
that the store would move in. That has not been submitted yet.
Okay.
But, and I think as today, the proposal to you all, it's commercial space.
Okay.
The
Hope is.
hopeful plan is that it would be the liquor store.
And on that site plan, where is the liquor store right now?
Right.
It's,
Oh, so it's gonna have to go away for a while before you can build that. Okay.
So there's gonna be maybe a relocation and then a relocation back.
Oh, lucky him.
Why?
It's already, there.
It's already there and you just want to continue the.
It's the, are they the property owners?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. They own that property. Interesting.
Any other questions on this? Okay. So I guess we can move to now your comments addressing the.
I just have this one question, are there elevators? Proposed? And I'm sorry, because this really goes back a long time, I know I was a secretary on this. But I don't recall, what are you, is it 1 and 2 bedrooms, do they have like an estimate number of residents they anticipate?
Yes. It's a mix of studios, 1, 2s, and 3s.
And do they have an estimate number of occupants?
We can pull that off the plans.
I think it's in the documents.
So is it-
too.
In the- I don't remember exactly which, thank you, one. I read about the.
Yeah, I don't know the mix of the actual site.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
They address all the, it's just in writing.
Is that different than what we had?
This actually has a responses to certain comments, and some things we can go back and look at it.
Oh, okay.
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 More paper. Thank you so much, Lee.
Just want to, for the record, just do a quick run through, because it just received it. Run through your comments.
So again, items 1 through 6, there's no response whatsoever. Item 7, as far as where we're at with the submissions. Delgot been submitted, we've received comments back from them. Sediments and stormwater plan for Newcastle Conservation is submitted preliminarily. We're working with them on a couple of, on a concept that we're using for this particular project. We're trying to obtain a really high level of water quality. It isn't technically required, but we're trying to do that. We're working with Andy Bowman. He's working with Zenrec. The construction general permit for Zenrec, we won't submit for that until after we've had the conservation approval, or at least, we're not making any more changes, then we'll submit Zenrec. The non-tidal wetlands permit, again, we haven't submitted until we're sure that there's no additional changes. So that will go in as soon as we have some kind of preliminary approval. Emergency access design, we've worked with, I guess, the fire marshal, fire chief, fire marshal. Since the beginning of this plan, we've gone back and forth, and our understanding is that he's very comfortable with this, and I think he's also had meetings with the fire chief to discuss how it works. We have a pretty large turnaround inside of it, so we've accommodated fire trucks and trash trucks and stuff, so we have worked with him on that. The letter of map revision, right now, we've submitted the FEMA, which is Clomer, at the conditional letter of map revision based on Phil. We've worked through some comments, and our understanding is FEMA is in the process of issuing the final Clomer F. Once the site is built, then we would get the letter of map revision done once we have as-built of everything. But until then, we just have the conditional letter saying that they agree with what we're doing. And at some point, it will come out of the floodplain.
Okay, so that Clomer F is that piece of paper that says based on the elevation, you're no longer in the floodplain?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so when they reissue a map, that'll be, X or whatever it is. The sanitary sewer plans for Newcastle County, we prepared a land development improvement agreement. We've submitted plans to them. We're working through some comments with one of the reviewers. I put his name in here. And then we will ultimately execute a land development improvement agreement to buy the sewer capacity. But we still have to work through some comments with them. The water plans, we dealt with, I think, 4 different people in the city for the Municipal Services Commission. We have not submitted officially to them, but they've come back with a lot of different questions. and we're working on answering them and, coming up with something that they'll agree to.
Okay.
Okay, so that's those submissions, all with the exception of two are already through everything. Section, number 8 and number 9, again, I don't believe we owe any, response to, more technical. Under the technical plan, number 1, we note that is, general criteria is in the ordinance. I think the only ones that we start addressing are number 3. And when you go through it, the minimum lot width is 25 feet, not 50 feet. That's talking about our zoning chart, which is not on this plan, but on our site plan, it has a zoning chart. Shows all dimensional requirements of the ordinance. And we have, I guess, a mistake or a typo in there. We just have to change that. It still complies the way it is. The reference to the building cover should be removed. We'll remove that.
Is that the 40,000 square feet you're
Correct.
talking about? Okay.
Correct. The plan should be labeled as a site plan. We'll do that. And just clarify the intent of 4 parking spaces in the northern quarter of the parking area. We're gonna make the parking count and obtain the size of the parking spaces as required by code. We had a double bank parking here. So what you have, I don't know if you know, familiar with this, but there's spaces in here in this first building that are 2 deep. So that's what this is. This is a 2 deep space. It's the owner's intent either to keep them for employees or to rent them to different people, to have them. So they would be assigned spaces more than just the other ones. So that's what the intent is.
Okay.
Okay?
Is it shown that way on the concept plan that went to the Board of Adjustment?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't believe it was. Don't believe it was.
Okay.
Number 4, with the special exception, there's no response required from on our end that we can see.
Does anybody have questions about
The traffic data.
traffic information?
Number 5, the applicant and the planning commission should discuss the location, nature, and extent of the proposed concrete retaining wall. Okay, again, I'm just gonna, I guess, abbreviate the comment as much as possible, but right now, this is a structural retaining wall throughout, from basically starting at this point.
You're on the other side, the far side of that road.
Well, it's on both sides of the building,
Okay.
and it's on the north side, the south side. The west side, this is the Gavion wall back in here, which is just a stone caged wall. But this, because of the way it's laid out, is we have it designed right now as a bent in place concrete wall. Okay, so I think the intent of that comment is to discuss the finish, and right now we're showing it as just basically brushed concrete with, it's just a concrete retaining.
I think there's better pictures in the material you've provided, but my question with this would be, obviously, in 5 more minutes, the people next door are gonna be wanting to do something. So are they gonna rely on your retaining wall to bring their property up to the right height, or what is your anticipation of how that's gonna work?
If they wind up having to bring their site up, the way it's designed right now, it does not encroach beyond the property.
No, I understand that, but I mean, are they gonna rely on you, or?
I don't know the answer to that. Most likely, we would have to go back and look at the calculations to see if it would actually work doing that, or they would have to, not us, because, But there are some common areas between the two that are, basically, part of our plan is that once they do more investigation in this area here, they would have to come back with, structural drawings, signed sealed structural drawings with, showing that the foundation, everything, because we don't know what's happening. There's an existing building here that ties into this building. Without taking that building down, you can't really determine how the foundation for the wall works. So our structural engineers went through and did a design based on assumptions. So when they actually get to construction, or before they get to construction, they're gonna have to rip this down and see exactly how these two buildings are married together. And then they may have to redesign the wall, which you'll never see, it's just the wall itself. But below grade, where they may have to look and redo that. Same thing would be for this, I mean, when we designed the city with buildings right next to each other. This building is independent of this building. They're designed to. Coexist with each other.
Condemning, yeah.
Look at it, so, I don't,
What exactly is the property line?
the property line is basically this wall right here. And then it cuts across into the center of this building here, but it runs right through their garage door. So we're trying to, initially, we had this going right through their garage door, but I don't think that's a very good idea, so we cut it back and around here, and then this property line basically follows this.
So that,
Okay? And this is part of this property.
which is,
This ugly looking L-shaped piece here is part of this property. This piece is not.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
are you going to have that part of the building, are you giving, because you said the property line goes right through that, are you giving that to the owners of that building? That part,
This here?
no,
No,
but
okay.
the garage door is.
And that's
Yeah.
illegal.
We're just leaving our wall off of our property line so that they can continue to use the garage.
Okay, so they're not tearing that building down at the moment.
The one, so it was built in two phases as far as we could tell, and this was the original structure. And then there was an addition put on. So there is actually a firewall separating the two currently. So our intent is to take down the addition and they will.
We're
continue
asking
to-
about the half garage though.
Yeah, so you'll
Yeah.
maintain ownership of that property, but let them use the garage?
Well, the garage is on their property. It's just that the door is right on the property line.
Oh,
So to get out of the door, they have
okay.
onto our.
I had a question about the walls. I was looking at the picture, a gabion wall system was new words for me, okay? And that seems okay, although a natural stone wall is prettier. But on the wall that you're gonna put up there, which will be visible to the public, is that just a flat wall, or are you gonna make some effort to make it pretty, or?
again, today, the way it's shown on our plan, it's an exposed concrete wall.
Okay, so just a plain old concrete wall.
Just, it's exactly what this is right here.
That was the intent of that comment.
It's just,
Given how much the DG zone speaks to architectural design elements regarding the building, I thought that you would want to have questions about.
Maybe make it prettier. I
some,
mean,
You know,
I'm
maybe-
not
It's
interested
very
in fake
modern.
stuff.
It's very
Yeah.
modern city, not very,
Yeah,
Newcastle City.
old fashioned city, yeah.
there's a host of different finishes and
You could put it, you could cast it to look like rocks,
that's
you know,
correct.
is that worth doing? I mean, it's fake.
Well, you
Is
can,
there?
you can just put that into the concrete so that it's,
There are finishes that you can, just like concrete paving that looks like brick or something. There are finishes, we've used them in different places. That's really up to my client on what they would accept because of it's cost.
Well, something better than a concrete wall is what I'm thinking, but, I mean, I'm an architectural purist, right? So if it's just a concrete wall, why are you bothering to make it look fake? But on the other hand, all of this is ersatz colonial, right? So at least something with a texture, I mean, something.
very
anything.
industrial looking.
Yeah, it's industrial and that's not consistent. The building is already, it's a very beautiful building, but it is industrial as well as referencing the, the old city. I would suggest some kind of finish that's not so. That's why I was asking if somebody builds next to it, are they gonna bury that wall? Because if that were to happen, what difference would it make? But if that takes 50 years, we are Newcastle after all, then, maybe something prettier in the meantime. But that's a casting, that is just a mold, people, that's not,
Well, the other
gluing
things
on
in
little
the-
rocks.
Going in Wilmington.
Yeah,
Again, we've used them in many many projects.
Yeah,
Yeah, I personally don't feel that this architectural design is,
historical.
not even that, I just don't think it speaks to the city. The overall design, even with the more modern buildings that we have, I think this is very, industrial, very, something I feel like I've seen in Baltimore. Like a rehabbed, warehouse, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I think. It's very modern, I mean, it's not ugly to know. It means I just don't know if it. You're right. Overall look,
The downtown gateway specification is pretty open-ended. That's the challenge of it. I mean, they put a brick on it, so. Which is better than some of the projects we've seen. Uh,
So with this wall, we thought it's concrete, just like you said, purist. It looks good, finished concrete, pretty minimalistic, but we could look at putting similar brick on there or another treatment to make it a little more interesting.
But again, I mean, I think that you would all, my recommendation might be owner would be to only do what really is visible from the street and not the entire project, okay? Because totally you're buried behind another building, things like that. I mean, that's.
where is that?
And because it's on the property line,
Yeah, I mean, cause that is fairly visible coming down Seventh Street,
And
that whole.
the other one would be starting right here.
that one on
Runs
the.
runs along here. Runs along here, so this would be very visible from the street, you see.
Would-
And then you'll see this one.
You'll see that.
This piece you'll see,
Yes, right behind the pump station.
this piece you'll see, through here, this you'll see, and here. And then this, and then I think back in here, you'll start to lose it.
And how high would the walls be in the various locations elevation wise from the existing ground? Elevation?
I think 7 is the highest here, a
Wow.
little bit taller than me.
Because it's right on the property line, you would be able to plant like shrubs and stuff to hide it then, correct?
They're using every inch.
This side's gonna remain green on the lower end, because this is the channel that goes underneath 7th Street, so that can't be touched as well.
And then, there's a lot of conversations about this, but depending on what happens with this parcel, then be planted in front of the wall here, if that's, we want to hide it.
And I'm assuming you weren't able to buy that one piece that's kind of like a sore thumb sort of in the middle?
This is owned by the city.
Oh,
It's not owned, it's owned by the city.
That's part of the
Yeah,
last
it's a pumping
comment.
station.
is that the pumping station?
The pumping station actually exists here. Apparently, the old pump station existed here. Then it was moved onto this site here.
Oh.
Okay, but the only thing that exists under here are all the force mains and all the different piping and everything else that goes through the thing.
Yeah, really.
So it's embedded in the last comment in my letter, but by virtue of the success to the buildings, they're cutting off access to the pump station. So now they need to obtain access across the city's property. This is elevated. So they can't get to the pump station from this access.
Oh, because you'll have a,
You're ramping up. So they now need to seek approval from the city somehow from city council to get access to the pump stations.
so when you were saying getting access to the pump station, you meant physical access for trucks. The way I read it, it sounded like you couldn't use the pump station because you'd have to pump up, but okay, now I understand what you're saying. Okay,
You have to get in there and maintain it. So right now, I think they just use whatever, I mean, this is just really an unimproved access point, so they just drive wherever they want to.
But there's,
At some point, we were hoping to just do a curb cut here and then improve stabilized access for them to come in over the walkway. But again, that's something that we have to work through. We've already talked with the county special services, have already seen this plan several times here. We're working with them on it.
and part of the reason we're lopping this off is so we can
So
hopefully
you will be able to see it.
give it away or just,
Our
I've been talking to the city about this for a while now. We're a few weeks away from hopefully
Our hope-
Decision.
forward
Okay.
on what's best for all parties.
Yeah, our hope is that this line between these two, it's, this piece of this was conveyed to this, and attached to this piece, so it makes sense. Right now, it doesn't make any sense, so we're hoping that that can
Okay.
happen, and then it's really out of our hands, and they can do what they need to do.
I'm looking at Google Earth right now, and the Garrison has done some buildup, which is just flat concrete. It's not decorated, just so you know. Because one of the thoughts I had is why not make it look similar to what the Garrison did? And the Garrison is just plain old concrete, you know, but it's not nearly as high. I mean, a 7-foot wall has a very different visual
But the front of the
aspect.
Garrison is about the same height as this would be.
I'm looking at the sides though, because your front is beautiful. You've
Yeah.
got stone, you've got brick, it's, you know, the way you built it up, put the name on, all that's nice, but we're talking about the sides of it where it's easy to try to save money. But,
Right.
you know, it's something that's part of the visual environment of the city.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful. We can discuss it more, guys. I made some notes on that. But it's not dissimilar to what actually got done on the Garrison.
Say where the pumping station is owned by who?
So,
Them.
so the pump station used to be here.
Mm.
There's pipes that used to run to it. And then I guess the pump station didn't have capacity or it didn't do all this. And then really it here with the land lease on this parcel. So there's currently a land lease for this area for this pump station. Land lease is about the same, this rectangle that's shown. And so given the fact that we can't do anything in this rectangle, it's a 100-year land lease. It's pretty much useless to anyone except for the owner of the lease, the leaseholder. So our intent is
That's
to,
municipal services, right? Is it?
Newcastle County.
Newcastle County.
Yeah. county pump station.
Okay.
City owns this, which the force main goes under. And so there's a lot of parties involved and we're trying to figure out who the best parties that they hold the cards or hold the land.
When you look at it in Google Earth, it's a bigger space than you sense in looking at it here. It's an important visual space in this area,
Yes,
so.
agreed. You can see it better in this.
Yeah.
What's the white?
That's the.
That's the pump station.
So the last comment, and it goes back to when we first discussed the city council's role in site plans. I mentioned it was perfunctory, but there are material issues that need to be decided by the city council regarding this site plan, and this is one of them. And then two other issues that near the end.
I'd just like to say, it's not the developer's fault that there hasn't been a decision on that. I mean, there was some delay with Mr. Barthel leaving. There was some delay on my part on moving that forward, so that is not their fault. They had tried and we have just not gotten to it.
But we've had a lot of changes going on.
Yeah. What is, so the two tiers, like where it says the battery, what is the down? Yeah, what is that facing? I mean, what's that, the finish
The
on that?
surface, yeah.
This is like Corten steel rusted. It's planters is what it's shown to be currently, stepped planters. Just rather than going straight
So
up.
they're not concrete or masonry or anything, they're
They're
steel.
not, they're, yeah, and they're planters.
So there'll be
Because that
plants
looks
in
nice.
there.
Correct.
So the other option would have been to bring everything out further to, closer to the sidewalk, and then you have a 5-foot wall. But we just gave up some of the property and stepped everything back.
Okay. Is there more?
There's a couple of things to discuss, and I think we're done. The technical comment. Number 5, we just discussed. Number 6 is 10% of the parking area shall be landscaped area. Internal landscaping shall include shade tree plantings and landscape traffic islands, at a minimum 1 4-inch caliber shade tree must be provided for every 5 parking spaces in any off-street parking area. So right now, there are 68, in our opinion, there are 68 surface parking spaces, which are in here. Everything in this area is covered, everything in this area is covered, so there's no shade tree needed.
They can't put them there anyway.
Well, actually,
Grow mushrooms.
this is excessive. So right now, we show 5 shade trees. Based on 68, we need 14. And we spoke with our landscape architect, and she is fine with adding trees in this area if we can agree on the number that we need, right? So I think it's 14. Let me check.
Yeah,
14 total.
Is there room for 14? Yeah, so.
Okay, so the 4-inch caliber tree causes an issue, right? A lot of 4-inch caliber trees are very, very, very tough to find. And there's a couple of explanations that she had given, that she says that basically the requirement to provide shade trees with a minimum 4-inch caliber, it says, based on our experience, the availability of 4-inch caliber trees is very low. Okay, there are very few nurseries that supply the trees because of the logistics and taking them out of the ground and everything. The survival rate on a much larger tree is much lower than starting with a smaller tree, especially when we're doing this kind of work. Okay, we're raising the whole site up, we're doing all kinds of stuff. So we can provide the trees, but we don't want to provide 4-inch trees. We'd rather do 2-inch to 2.5-inch caliber trees so that they have a chance of surviving and getting through. We did go through, and there are areas that we can add those trees to.
Okay.
Okay,
All 14.
well, there's 35, but yeah, we would add more trees. Okay, that's our request at this time.
Do you have a number in mind?
You'd end up with a total of 14
14
trees.
total trees, 2.5.
I know. Oh, so you're saying you would put in 14 trees?
We're gonna have a total of
That's smaller.
14
Oh,
trees.
okay.
But you're gonna start with
Just a
small.
smaller tree,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
okay?
We've heard the same thing before about that caliper tree. I mean, that's a pretty intense requirement for the zoning ordinance.
Where'd that
For a
come
lot of,
from?
yeah, for a
Is
lot
that-
of trees, I mean,
We don't know where that came from, though.
it's just, again, I mean, just logistically, just moving them around, you get shocked that there's all kinds of problems, and she said that, you know, it's one of the reasons why she didn't come with 14 to start, but
That's been in the code, that's been in the code for a long time. That wasn't something that we changed 2 years ago. That's a,
Maybe it's something we need to change going forward. Is that something we can put on our wish list of things to
yeah,
fix?
as we get more familiar with this, that's what we should be doing, is looking at things in the ordinance that don't make sense, that we can work with the developer to address in a reasonable way, you know, on the fly, but if we do have an opportunity to amend things moving forward that don't make sense, we should propose that to city council. But it's not, we can,
I was
I'm okay
wondering
with
if that
that.
was in our, or if that needs to be changed in our city. Zoning.
as a quick aside, I would let things build up a little bit more and not spend the resources on amending ordinance.
We get forgiven in this process.
We could, they're proposing a reasonable, they're addressing it in a reasonable way. I wouldn't say we're giving it, we're addressing it, but.
Your landscape, did they say what type of trees they were?
there's different trees that she's proposing right now.
Are they native?
Yes. I know you guys are rushing, and I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I apologize. Number 8 is a 6-foot high wood shadow box fence is included in the site plan. Right along here, we're required between parking from the building residential. So we right now have placed a 6-foot high shadow box fence. I included a cut sheet in the package and showed what a shadow box fence looks like.
I looked that up online.
Okay. I was thinking,
So that's this.
Yep.
Right?
no, that's not this, that's actually, it shows on the architectural, rendering. We've had discussions internally about what we're gonna propose there. Right now, we're basically showing a guide rail on the top and not a full fence along that side. Okay, the shadow box is through here. Use to screen the parking, the first floor parking from the adjoining neighbor. That's what it's proposing. It's just a basic, it's a basic screen.
Just a
fence, is what it is, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, what's proposed here then that's shown on the architectural plans?
These are gonna be, handicap ramps, so they're gonna have pedestrian barrier on this side. Okay, 2 inch high, and then railings through the, up and down. This on the north side, it's basically a guide rail that goes to 42 inches high. Because it's vehicular access, we have to be careful about it.
I think you
So right
skipped
now-
7 too, by the way.
Pardon me?
7, about the light.
Oh, we
I
haven't.
apologize, okay. Yeah, I'll get.
Oh, right.
The applicant and the planning commission discussed a lighting plan, and thank you very much for that. Which they are consistent with the zoning ordinance relative to the DG zone. Right now, we're proposing basically, I've included in the packet, we're proposing wall mounted fixtures inside and, along the building,
outside?
building mounted lights, okay?
Pole outside, right?
Pardon me?
Inside. Pole or
Inside the space.
Oh, in the
Poles are
space.
gonna be in here.
Oh, okay.
And this is building mounted lights, downlighting. Was provided what we used next door. And basically I've included the catalog cuts in there, so you can see exactly what we're proposing at this point.
Okay.
The architectural rendering shows some really nice sconces along the front. We didn't really model those sconces because we have no idea what they're supposed to do at this point. But we do provide lighting in the front, down, excuse me,
Yeah.
with a wall mounted fixture that lights the sidewalk up, which is required as part of the code.
They're all modern.
Yeah, they're very modern.
So, it's not gonna be these.
Those are
Again,
just different architectural lighting fixtures, not part of the site lighting package. So those fixtures are not these.
Right. That's what I was getting at. I didn't see these on the site plan.
Right.
So is it these, you're gonna change the site plan, you're gonna change the lighting plan for these, or you're saying,
Those are just accent lighting in addition to the site plan lighting.
oh, okay.
You said the same lighting as there were at the Garrison?
It's roughly the same lighting fixtures as was used in Garrison.
It's very inconsistent with what the city puts up, even in the neighborhoods outside that, so.
Architecture, you know, there's-
I'm just, I live outside the store and they put in, and they still have, the tall,
Old fashioned looking.
Yeah.
Things, yeah.
and I mean, I'm not in the store district or anything, and
Okay, you don't mind, I'll just hit that. I think the last one, number 9 is the streetscape, okay? Whether this project is consistent with the streetscaping. We believe that with the exception of putting street trees out there, there's one required every 40 feet. We're consistent with everything, with the sidewalk, the lighting of the sidewalk. Basically greening up and along the face of the building. Talked internally, we can plant a tree here in the front, or maybe 2 trees in the front. What we have to worry about is creating a site distance issue. Putting the trees in the site, right? There's not a whole lot of room to move around there.
but that's where you had the gardens.
Yeah, the gardens in the front, we would have to put the tree in front of that, okay? And I never like planting trees right in front of retail. just because it screens the front and it becomes
They want
an
to
issue, right? A lot of police don't want us to plant a whole lot in front of.
No, for
retail,
safety
right? For
reasons,
safety
yeah.
right.
And I
So
don't
again,
think bushes
we
either.
can, if we're required to, we'd rather not. Okay, and only for the reason I just said, and you can read through them if you want. We don't have benches or street furnishing, we can also provide that if it's required. I don't know what the value is right now, but maybe at some point there will be value to it.
Benches was something that I've questioned, just a place to sit while people are walking, because, you know, the whole downtown Gateway concept was to make it a walking area. And if there's a place to just sit for a minute out front, you know, near the planters. I mean, I see where you're going with the modern, I'm not sure I'm as concerned about modern lights, modern bench, because it's a modern design of this building. And it's compliance, I'm not sure how much we can tell you what to do, but a bench, at least one bench out front on the frontage, I think would be nice.
Is there room?
Yeah,
There's,
there's,
I mean, the sidewalk is here, right? The sidewalk is here, so there can
Yeah.
be street furnishings in this area. I mean, the sidewalk is basically.
Actually, you could sit on the wall.
you can attach it to the wall, I mean, there's
Oh, is
probably
that
rules
metal?
about that,
Yeah,
but
that's-
yeah. Just one bench, that would be
I mean, they
nice,
can put benches up in here, you know, I mean.
yeah.
I mean, because if you go down and meet your friend who lives there and you're just waiting outside because you're gonna go walk to Battery Park or whatever together. It's just.
You wanna sit down as the dog's wearing you out.
Okay.
Section 10, I'm gonna, technical comment 10, I'm gonna skip over because again, the architects got that. 11, we talked about the floodplain, and hopefully what I'm saying is we need to look back at the case plan. Again, we're raising the entire site up, with the exception of where we tie into the street connections, because that's still gonna be below the flood elevation. So they're raised 7th Street up another 6 or 7 feet, you know, it's gonna be the way it is. But the walls are described, they basically come in, they start to construct the walls, they backfill, and they fill the whole site up, and then they start to build the buildings. And so,
Did we pass over the remediation of the contamination, or is that just agreed already now?
that's not part of this comment, letter. I think
I mean, it was covered in here that it was going to happen.
in the old
And-
plus letter, yeah, and again, that's.
And you haven't gotten the brownfield plan from Denrec yet?
We do.
Oh, you do? So you have an approval from Denrec for your remediation?
We have a final plan of remedial action,
Okay.
which then we need to carry out. And then, once that's done, they'll give us long-term approval. It's mainly the fill that we're putting on the site is creating such a barrier in between the contaminants and the new construction that
So you don't have to dig out what's
we already
contained?
dug out. There was a small portion that was more contaminated than the rest that we already dug out.
Okay,
But we took care of the worst area, and then the rest is pretty minimal, and the filling creates a buffer,
okay,
a
Catherine.
cap, and then that coupled with the ground floor parking is,
Gonna make it impervious.
yeah. And then at the end of the day, we'll take more tests once we fill the site, and if there's still readings, then we'll put a vapor barrier
Okay,
at the ground floor.
And, 12 is the subdivision of the parent parcel, which we've gone through. The intent is to lock off the tidal wetlands in the back. And to create some separate entity for maintenance, long-term maintenance of that parcel. That's still being worked out. I don't know that we have a real definitive answer at this point in time. Same with this piece right here, whether it's a financial subdivision like a condominium or a physical subdivision where we're creating new tax parcels, we don't know the answer to that. I wish we did, but we don't.
and you haven't taken title to this, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's it for the technical piece. I think there's, number 10 is the architectural.
I did have a question on having the piece to give it to an ecology type group to maintain. Is there an obvious group that would company, entity, something that would take that on. So I'm just unfamiliar.
I personally reached out to a lot of different entities at the state level, to get them to commit to taking it. I haven't had success at this point. But I know that the owner has been doing some work on their own, so.
We're still working through that. No one's raised their hand yet, out of all the groups we've asked. But that's part of, number 13, the list of items we're working through with the city currently. And we're hoping, so just number 13, this list, we're hoping to have these resolved in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And at which time, hopefully that's the remainder of the items to discuss with the city.
Cause I don't think we would want to approve subdividing that parcel until we knew who was gonna take it. Cause I don't want that kind of left hanging, that it's just sort of out there, unresolved, party to be named. So
And that's the same thing we're working through with.
everybody else.
Okay. That's it for.
If you know anyone that would want.
That's what I think, you can create your own nonprofit there, you can,
That's the consideration for sure.
and that's all wetlands, so you can't do anything with it, correct?
No, just has to be managed. So, yeah.
Okay. That
You know,
was,
when you build a bog, this happens.
Right now, it's a sea of asphalt and buildings, it's not, but yeah. Okay, is there anything else for the technical portion?
Question for Chris. I'm gonna get back to traffic. Is it currently a D at intersection?
yeah.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
the existing intersection is a level of service D. And the proposed development is not impacting that level, and it's remaining a level of service D after the proposed development is built out, including background traffic.
Do we have any other presentation issues or questions for him at the moment? Cause we need to move
Are
on.
we gonna hear from the architect about, or was there any, is there anything else on that?
What about it? I mean,
Oh, I just thought you said there was the architect.
I know you're in a rush, I don't know how you want to address it, but.
I didn't have the chance to address the architectural comments in my letter, so it's up to the chair, but I think it would be fruitful to have the architect go over the
okay,
plans and the plans consistency with the regs.
I'm actually not in a hurry, maybe I'm the only one.
well, no, we have somebody who has to leave.
Oh, okay.
Apologize for taking so much of your time.
No, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, at least we have a quorum still, but. Okay,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Bartolome with Architectural Alliance. The architect project, yeah, so I responded to this in sort of long form, just point by point with the ordinance, so I'm happy to go through each one and.
is there something we got in the writing from you?
I think he's referring to this with the red comment.
That's the one.
The Devon Rock fence picture, it was in your packet, but
Was it in future and typeface?
Might be it. But yeah, I'll run through them and, yeah, just if there's anyone you want me to expound on or have a question, just, shout out and I'll just move as quickly as you need me to move through here. And just quickly note, this is really kind of word for word verbatim from that section of the ordinance. Gateway district. So item 2, building standard, new construction should meet the following: building character, development, generally employed building types is compatible with the architecture adjacent to the downtown area. And the proposed building is in character to scale with the adjacent downtown area buildings. A couple of them immediately across the street, one in particular. Item B, building orientation and entrances. Front facade building shall be oriented towards the street and sidewalk. Primary.
This is, I'm not sure this is what I had in mind. We read all this. So the question is, do we have any questions on this? I mean, excuse me for interrupting you.
All right.
Now everyone says they want to be urgent.
Well,
The specification
thorough,
has
but-
high latitude is what I took away from this. Because you have a modernist building with historical references, but it looked to me like you checked all the boxes. Is there anything that's bothering anybody on this? If we don't have questions, we can let this nice man sit down and move on.
Significant improvement over what's there. I didn't, I don't think I had anything.
Yeah, I didn't.
Already.
Change your mind.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sorry.
You got off easy.
Yeah, the one thing I circled on here was benches and we covered that, so.
And those benches, I'm sorry, Steve, I mean, they would be presumably in that 10 feet area of sidewalk that's along West Seventh Street.
On
Meaning
the street.
we're not anticipating pushing back, it's gonna be within that 10 foot zone.
Yeah,
So is next steps, are we to memorialize some of the comments, decisions on the texture concrete? Is that?
I think that we need to
So that's
discuss.
the way it would be. If you have anything else to present, you present it. We'll close the, kind of close the presentation. I don't know how you guys exactly do it most of the time, but the way I do it, close the presentation, they would debate, and then they would add, I think there's two things. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, two things we discussed as conditions, which was the around the concrete wall. And the second one was the benches. So those need to be added as a condition.
I have a lot more than that in my notes, but we'll discuss when we get.
Those are the two that I had.
Okay.
Anything else?
Okay.
So. Sylvia, you said you have a list of questions. Comment,
Are you closing the,
presentation. Unless I have a question, or we have a question.
Do we run down all
Please.
my list? Okay, so, so in the, I just made a note of what I thought ought to go in the motion, but you know, you're the lawyer. All the city and county approvals have to be done. Everything mentioned in the November 27th letter needed to be addressed. Some kind of more natural finish on the retaining wall that's visible from the street. Solve the pump area with the city council. We agreed with 14 2 to 2.5 inch native trees in the parking lot. I think we agreed no trees in front made sense.
Yes. I
Add a
like the
bench,
bushes that you've got on your design.
add a bench in the front. And solve the space parcel with the wetlands parcel B. Those were the things I identified that we probably needed to put in the motion. Anybody else have anything?
So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still figuring this out. We're not approving the site plan because we're still waiting for all these other pieces, right?
well, this, again, this is our first site plan.
Okay,
This is my first site plan under these new regs. This is your first site plan, period. It's my
for me, yeah.
1,000 site plan, but my first year under these regs. And, again, one of the main changes was making sure that the other agency reviews have caught up somewhat. I don't have a percentage, but I just like to see that they're farther along in the review process with the other agencies before we grant conditional approval, because it gets messy keeping track of everything.
Yeah.
And the status of the reviews from the other agencies and the list of things that we had here tonight, I would recommend that you table a decision on this and have the applicant, revise the plan as they see fit to address the things that we spoke about that materially would change the site plan that we're seeing and Secondly, to make additional progress with the city on the three outstanding issues in the last comment that I had in the review letter. And,
Deal with the concrete and,
yeah.
pretty
and-
much that list.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
and there was a third, I lost my,
I hate doing that, but
It makes sense. Well, I don't wanna approve it until I see copies from the state agency saying these things have been approved or resolved.
I'm not, I wouldn't want to go that far.
Oh.
Because, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money to spend on getting the Del Dot entrance. Or stormwater management approval or the wetlands.
well, these are all
permit.
showstoppers, it sounds like. If they can't get it, then it's back to the drawing table.
Right, but again, yes, that's correct. But the idea would be that they've done they've made a lot of effort in submitting the plans and the permit applications to the various agencies that we talked about. But again, I'd like to see them a little bit farther along in the process. Plus the things that we spoke about tonight regarding change that could change the site plan with the finish, the benches. And then the three material things at the end, I'd like to see more progress made between the city, whether it's the city attorney and their team, or whether they get some feedback from the city council. It's a little bit too open-ended right now to grant a conditional approval. So I would recommend that the site plan be tabled pending the changes being made to the site plan as articulated by Commissioner Batty. Further progress being made with the other new agencies that we spoke about, and further progress being made in the last item in the letter regarding the three issues that have to be approved by the city council.
Oh, no, pumping
Yeah,
station,
they need not be fully resolved, but
some sense of where we're going.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do we need a motion to do that?
yes.
Can I ask one question? I thought I read in here about, information about electric car charging. That's still part of the plan? The chargers for electric
We'll
cars?
most likely have electric car chargers.
I was gonna say, I think some of those folks, you can put them in at a pretty minimal cost to you.
I think you need to commit to that.
We'll commit this one.
Thank you. Because your people are gonna move in, they're gonna need it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's only, I think, about 8 or 10 electric car chargers in the historic city. And they'd have to run all over town to charge their cars. They won't like that. It'll cost
Actually,
you
could-
rentals.
It could be a revenue stream for you. They'll be lined up wanting to charge
Yeah,
their
like the
car.
third- wow.
It's on Third Street.
No, but I mean, if they go pay, it's up at Wawa.
No,
My father, like,
no, you don't want that. It is the 21st century. We're not asking you things like, are you not going to use natural gas? Which I would like to ask you, but we're not asking you that. Or are you going to put solar panels on the top? Which I would like to ask you, but I don't think everybody else is gonna.
I would like that.
I think you'd save money if you did, but those are your business decisions today.
Okay. Any other question? Do I have a motion?
To table this, I motion to table this till we receive the information Commissioner Batty pointed out and further information
And whatever else,
with
Mr.
from
Walton
the
wants
other
to add.
agencies.
Yeah, so I agree with Chris that the other agencies, they can't all be done, right? It's just too much. There.
Okay,
It's never gonna work, right?
Okay.
Because somebody gotta go first. And so I do think that, the issues, and again, I will say that part of the issue with them not having that piece resolved with the pump station, that rests on me and it rests on the city. So we're gonna try to get that, at least information to them as quickly as we can. With that. And I'm sorry about that. Just the way it sort of happened. And then I know from their perspective that, and I'm not speaking for them, but you know, they can make the revisions to the plan and take that issue, and then I think this could be back in front of you in relatively short order, subject to, you know, subject to the parcel,
Okay.
city parcel area.
But how would you word it?
Oh, I actually like the wording of the motion. So your motion was to table subject to
The
the
list.
condition, you know, the list that was
Conditions,
outlined.
Commissioner
by
Batty.
Commissioner Batty.
Put forth in addition to, further information from the other agencies and approvals.
Do you have it, Kathy? You need anything from me?
And I think the approvals were in reference to,
If you want to send it to me, that'd be good.
number 13 in the response letter. Do you want us to note that specifically?
Oh, 13 being about the parcels.
Yeah.
Those were the ones in question, correct, Chris?
Well, that
Yes.
was part of what,
That's the biggest issue.
Cynthia said, those were the last thing she said, was the resolution of those parcels.
Parcel B.
And, naturally, they will be farther along with the other agencies. So, you know, I don't think we necessarily need to state that they're pursuing those.
The question I had out of my own ignorance is there's a million things that have to get followed up here. It's not our job to follow them up. How do we know they get followed up?
No,
Can you
that's-
reassure me that it all gets followed up? It's your job?
No, Chris, to the extent it's a planning issue, to the extent it's a planning issue, it's Chris, the extent it's a building issue, like, that's Mr. Bergstrom.
Okay. We know where he lives, so.
Commissioner, would you mind just going through your, so everybody's clear?
This one more time?
Just
I
one more time.
would be happy to. Sorry to be so nerdy about it. All the city or county approvals required within the measure of
Reasonableness.
reasonableness that you've stated. All of the issues raised in the November 27th letter addressed. Make a more natural finish on the retaining wall where it's visible from the street.
Pardon me, Mr. Ad, I
Yeah.
know a little out of turn, but
That's okay.
that was the one I wanted to ask about. There's a lot of wall there, but we were talking about some specific areas, and it would be good if maybe while we're together, we could enumerate what those specific areas. of
Visible
wall
from the
are.
street, I think was our criteria. Yeah,
That works. Visible.
just not the great expanse of concrete. I think that's what we worried about. So some kind of texture, some kind of something. Make it a little bit more alive.
So, like the
Standard
whole,
concrete.
the whole wall is.
Yeah, it's all the way back there. Yeah. Put a mold on it that looks like stones. I don't know. You guys are the experts on that, but just not a big expanse of plain old concrete. It's so boring. It's so visually unappealing.
And would, we don't know that this is possible, but would, split base block, it's what's out in front of the garrison. Would that be,
I think so.
I'd have to go look at it, but I mean, I think we're just saying anything to make it not look like a piece of poured concrete, like an overpass on a highway, you know, a little more human.
And how high is this wall?
It's high,
Goes up to
7
7
feet
feet.
high.
Depending on, I guess, where you are, it just continues to go up.
well, the,
Yeah, well, there's plenty of people who want to provide that, right? Trust me. For free, and it may happen anyway.
but the grade of the adjacent concrete slopes down.
Oh,
It goes to.
so the top is consistent, but it's just the depth of the wall that
Yeah,
changes.
it goes down further, and then it comes down to the street.
Okay.
So Commissioner, I know we interrupted you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You want more of my?
Yeah, so that was,
Here we go. Solve the pump area with the city council. We accept 14 2 to 2.5 inch native trees in the parking lot. We agree no trees in the front. One bench at minimum on the street for humans to sit in, and solve the parcel B problem. Did I forget anything, guys?
you have the motion to table for the conditions outlined Commissioner Batty. So there was no second.
Second.
We have a second. Madam Chair, you would call for a,
Vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're carried.
I'm sorry, could you repeat who made the motion, who seconded it?
Kristen Zumar made the motion. Samara.
Second.
Thank you.
Any questions? You good? Okay, subdivision plan Buttonwood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we'll see you soon.
I read our consultant's report on that. And I didn't see anything that seemed. Is there anything you'd like, Chris, that seemed about that? It looked like completely straightforward subdivision to me. It checked all the boxes, it's not asking us to do a variance. I mean,
Is anybody representing the Buttonwood subdivision? Okay,
the other thing I would say is two single-family homes in the Buttonwood area is exactly what we want. So.
does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yeah, it's unusual that they're not here.
I
People
know.
usually here, and I've done it different ways where they're not here, it doesn't get heard.
But this is, it's recreating an existing, so the lot is combined.
I was going to write to that, that's immaterial. The lot line was extinguished, it was extinguished years ago, so whatever, they use the word recreate as if something, to
This is
alleviate some requirement.
Extinguished by deed. That. Deed.
So there are,
Presented, is that generally required that they be here to speak to it and answer a question?
But I would really rather not do it that way. If this is straightforward and we can approve it, I think we should approve it. I think there's a point of punitive.
It's just gonna be residential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a garage.
Oh, okay.
yeah, we were asked to get this on the agenda. So,
It's last minute.
yeah, the city solicitor recommends that we table it pending the applicant being here to make a presentation, making sure that we.
you don't have to.
Okay, I would say no. You know, there could have been an accident up the street that's the traffic. and whatnot.
On 12 letter, prior to the planning commission finding the plat, the applicant should provide evidence of water and sewer availability. Is there a concern that that would not happen?
No, it's just standard practice.
Oh.
We should have a letter from the county and a letter from the MFC saying water and sewer is available. Again, this is our first subdivision. So, the chair, there's a signature block on the plat for the chair to sign to forward it to the city council. But before the chair of the planning commission signs it, we should have, that's where we can
Okay.
have things, that's our hammer to have things resolved administratively. So if there's conditions that don't need to have the plan revised, which I think would be the case here, I don't think the comments in my letter require the plan to be revised and resubmitted. They just needed to be revised, and we'll make sure that if you do approve it, that these conditions are met prior to the chair signing the plat.
Okay.
So my concern is setting a precedent that it's okay to just submit something and not show up.
That's right.
Well, you roll the dice if you do that.
What?
Well, there's really no questions on this. And I read it very carefully.
Get it?
Yeah.
Disagree with you.
It's common practice that someone's here.
I was just gonna say, I just don't think it's appropriate that they just submit it and blow us off.
Well, we don't
I
know.
was gonna say that there were other people here, and maybe that person has left. I don't know.
Then they wouldn't-
I haven't seen anybody I recognize. Usually
All I did was email the letter to the email address
yeah, I was gonna say,
on the transmittal.
he showed up last time they had something to do that was even less than this. So I'm sort of surprised.
I'll defer to the planning commission on whether you take action or not. But if you do take action, there would be, I would recommend approval condition on the comments in the November 2nd letter being addressed prior to the chair signing the plat or to the city council.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I'm covered at that.
Yes.
Oh, it's very good. For it. I have no idea. Oh, it's like right, in front of this packet part that was right. No.
It looks like this, what you're looking for, and then like this.
I have like the handwritten.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, there we go. Two pieces even involved. This was the letter that this was referring to.
The only thing I kind of thought is. I felt like needed a question and answer.
Yeah.
My biggest-
Problem also.
Yeah.
My biggest concern is creating a precedent that people don't need to show up.
Yeah, but he sent the letter the day before Thanksgiving and it's Monday. So. Some people took Thanksgiving off.
So
Maybe he didn't anticipate getting on here this
Yeah.
quickly.
Maybe.
Well, then if we put it off, then it wouldn't have made a difference if he didn't
Well.
anticipate it being on here. We put it off to the next meeting.
Yep, I would just like to vent briefly that I think that it is behooves these commissions to help people do good things in our city without obstructing them on bureaucratic process. I find that very annoying on all the commissions on which I serve. Put it off a month. They can't start for a month. They can't start anyway because they've got to fulfill some stuff.
But we don't know the circumstance, so it goes both ways.
I mean, if he submitted it Wednesday, maybe he didn't think it was gonna make it to the Tuesday meeting.
I submitted before Wednesday, my letter.
Oh, you're.
So. If there's no reason to say no, and all of this is absolutely straightforward, based on my read of it. Put the conditions on, they have to meet the evidence of water and sewer availability, and then we'll sign. You'll sign.
no, I won't.
Okay, so you need to have some come back?
It's definitely it's gonna go on about it.
Yeah.
But it's important.
I
that she
disagree with
has that
that,
understanding.
but okay. No, I mean, I disagree with that as a philosophical choice.
So it's a valid vote. So there's two things you can do. You can have a motion to approve. You can have a motion to table till the next meeting to resolve this dispute by somebody making one of those two motions. And there's a second, there's a vote.
I'm gonna make a motion to table until the next meeting.
I second.
And
All in favor?
Usually discuss.
Oh, discussion, any
I'm
comment?
gonna vote no.
Well, you can do that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Call for the vote, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Next thing on the agenda. Public comments. Will you keep the 3-minute? Oh, yeah, free stuff.
Good evening, Phil Gross, 1301 13th Street. Let me first start by saying, once again, Ms. Batty, you're trying, it's just.
No.
Well, you were corrected that this should be tabled, and she went on a tirade. That's just inappropriate.
No comments on people.
Okay, second,
Phil.
you're correct when you said If they felt it important enough to go ahead and move on with the project sooner than later, they had the opportunity to show up. They didn't. So I thank you, Commission, for making the right decision with that. Going ahead with the West Seventh project, I distinctly remember, I don't know if you were all here, but they tried to suggest that there was somebody that was gonna take over that tidal basin, which was the trustees. They didn't mention it, but at the next meeting, which again I attended with the trustees, they said emphatically there was no way that they would take it over. So I hold very little belief. And once again, this commission did the right decision in holding it off, because a lot of these things that they've submitted, they're not going to get approval on. So thank you for at least tabling it and not saying, well, we'll approve it with your guys getting approval on everything. So once again, you did a grand slam. That project in no way represents City of Newcastle. It's the gateway. It's the first view that anybody coming into this city will see. And that building doesn't belong in its current view. From the lighting, not even close. And they're saying, well, because the garrison has it. And once again, you guys weren't here, but that's what the garrison used as an excuse. So if certain things are passed and approved, then what they're gonna do is next year, 2 years from now, the next project's gonna say, but that was approved on that project. So I just ask that, you hold your ground on stuff, especially when it comes to the view and welcoming area of our city. It's important. It's the first view that anybody will see. So again, I appreciate all you do. And Miss Patty, if you want to videotape this, I think that's inappropriate as well. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, that item is now closed. Other comments from commission members?
We want to discuss the date of the next meeting.
For the 18th.
The 18th. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
At
What?
6:30.
Seven.
7.
Seven really worked for me.
I don't know, I thought we were not gonna get into changing the meeting schedule. I thought that was on the last meeting, we said we're gonna do it on a one-off basis.
I suggest that don't change it all the time. If you're gonna change it to 7, let's keep it at 7 for a significant period of time. I thought I was referring to don't make it
Okay.
6:30 1 month and then 7 the next month and then back to 6:30. If
So
7 works, let's keep it at 7.
Is 7 good for food? Or,
So it's the 18th.
yes, your next meeting is on the 18th.
Do you want a haircut date?
I actually have something else I wanted to discuss. Chris made me aware that Will Mapco had created this transportation plan for the city of Newcastle. And one of the things he and I talked about was right now, the way and you're gonna have to help me. We're set up so that every project is looked at independently in terms of the traffic impact. There is a way to look at this more holistically, but we have to do something, and I forget what it is we have to do.
Yes, we had a general discussion about traffic impact studies, and you can see it from the plus comments that projects that fall below a certain threshold of trips, DelDOT doesn't require a traffic study. And the accepted area-wide fee, I believe it's called. And one of the reasons is when you do a traffic study, number one, you're just looking at one project. And if that one project tips an intersection below an unacceptable level of service, then it all falls on that one developer. And it's been found over time that that's somewhat unfair and uneconomical. And there's something called a transportation improvement district, where instead of requiring developers that have a certain threshold of
I'm coming.
instead of requiring developers to do traffic impact studies and looking at a snapshot in time at a specific intersection, you do what's called a transportation improvement district. And we could talk for hours about this, but in general, you determine the geography of your traffic shed or your study area. And you work with DelDOT to determine if it's eligible to be designated a transportation improvement district. And if so, instead of doing traffic impact studies within that district, you do the modeling plan for the transportation infrastructure within that geography. And then you come up with a long-term capital improvement plan based on what you think the future development is going to be. And then when the future development comes in, they contribute what's in essence an impact fee to fund the improvements that are spelled out in the capital improvement plan for that area.
So we try to anticipate places.
Yes, instead of spot improvements and instead of one developer tipping an intersection, everybody's contributing to.
What kind of like radius is this type of area?
We would need someone to come in and, I know of them, we help Newark do their transportation improvement district. And I'm not saying that it's the city of Newcastle and our environments are even suitable for TID. I'm just saying that it's a tool that can be used to get out of this. That level of service is just tipped to F by 10 trips. Now it's all on the battery to fix our West 7th Street problems.
Right.
And I get
Do
that.
they try to get it like above a D is not good. So let's just start there. If 7th and Washington is a D, that's really horrible.
It's not made any worse by this addition.
Yeah, well, that's debatable,
Remember.
but I guess my question is, do they also offer up ways to get it above where like the current grading?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if, because we're working with DelDOT, we have to work with DelDOT acceptable levels of service, or we can, as part of the planning.
Tell us what we could.
I think it would be part of the whatever we've been calling our, I don't know what to call it,
Our wish list?
our learning about different things in anticipation of our 5-year update of our comprehensive plan. And this is something, we didn't want the state housing person to come here today to give a presentation when we had a multifamily housing development on the agenda. But I would like to put this on the list to get someone here or for me to gather more information on the implications of a transportation improvement district.
And that would be something that we would recommend council look into, because council is the one that would put
Yes,
that in
yes.
motion, but we could get details about it and say, hey, this is how they could help us.
Yes. And it's a big effort. It's not something that we just ask DelDOT to do and they do it. It is an investment of DelDOT money, probably of the city money. But I would like to just give you a broader overview, a more educated, but still broader overview of the implications to see if it's something that would be worthy to put in the next comp plan or to consider putting in the comp plan.
Or even before that, if possible.
The
Because
5-year review, I think.
Well, or before, yeah, right. Yeah, because I think there are traffic issues, and I think we need to figure out how to work with the council to get them resolved, and I think the traffic.
They're not,
improvement-
and it's not, it's not just summer now. I mean, I was coming in from Washington Street to Seventh to go to Mercury and go forth, and every tag on there was out of state. Coming right down Seventh Street.
Yeah.
And it was crowded and they were coming right down Sixth Street. I mean, I went up to Fourth to go to
Yeah.
Mercury, but I mean.
It's
So
even
the-
worse when they come down Third Street and they knock people's wing mirrors off and.
Again, you know,
So I mean, that's why I'm asking, what is the scope of something like that, you know, like, could it encompass the whole Sixth, Third Street issues that we have?
yes, the geography for sure. You know, like the Newark TID area is very large. It encompasses the city and parts of the county. And again, it's a development tool to not have everybody do a traffic study and do these spot analyses all over the place. It's getting, it's just so much about funding as it is about planning and the capital improvements. It's getting people to contribute into a legitimate and legal impact fee that can be withstand a challenge, instead of, again, that developer does this intersection, and if somebody comes in over there, then we have to look at that intersection. Everybody's contributing. And again, I'm not sure that this is a suitable area, because
But they
You
might
need a
have
lot of
other
development.
programs
yes,
that might help us.
Yeah, it's just as a concept, they take all of the sort of future improvements and sort of lump them in to one plan, right? And then instead of, if your intersection fails, I have to improve it, they pay a percentage or a piece of the money that goes into that to fund those improvements. So as your development goes up, your pot of money goes up, and then you make the improvements as you go based on that plan. That's a TA.
I know that there's interest in city council on this, particularly with Andrew Zelt, who's a stakeholder. He lives on Sixth or Seventh Street. Yeah. And that is still within the historic area for people who are not aware. So, and Sixth Street is apparently a state road. But others are not. But the problem across the board, it's been a problem in the historic city for a long time, is that there's too much out-of-state traffic driving down all these streets which are not designed for that level of traffic. And it's become so frustrating for people's cars getting damaged at a minimum that people don't even report it to the police anymore. They say, oh crap, and they go to their insurance company. So it had been on my list to say, why don't we do a study of the historic area? And maybe that can be rolled into it. I'm saying this for Suzanne's benefit. And maybe there's a working group with planning and city council to come up with a plan, a way to look at it. I mean, we'll listen to what the experts, whoever they are, but it is a terrible, insidious problem in the historic district that there's so much traffic that goes through, and it's so damaging to the quality of life. And it's an important historic city. This is not just any city. This is a city where the Declaration of Independence was signed. It should be treated more respectfully than beyond everybody's, wayfinder to drive right through the middle of the city.
Didn't Chief Police say that they can do something with the
They can.
GPS
They
that
can.
would stop?
But it needs to be in context, I think. That's the problem. I mean, if we stopped them on Sixth Street and they all came through Third Street, everybody on Third Street would kill themselves.
Well, I think Sixth Street's the issue because it's a state road, but Third Street isn't.
They still come down Third Street every summer by the thousands.
I'll come down there
Yeah.
when I go to Mercury.
Yeah, or if you go to Mercury, we'll overlook it.
So
But you're local.
you'll work on getting us information on
Or
the,
having somebody present to us or something.
yes. Traffic engineers that work and traffic planners that worked on the New York TID. So we have the experts that can provide me the appropriate information or get them there with the city's approval to get somebody else here.
Okay. We had a meeting on the 9th. There were many items on that agenda, which were all resolved except one. Typical hack meeting. That one was new construction at 105 The Strand, which is a house proposed by Curran and Pinnell, she's an architectural historian and he's an architect. They've been working with Hack already for about a month to make everything meet what the architect wanted, and it was approved by the Historic Area Commission. What's interesting about it is that for those who are not familiar, that section of the Strand had 3 properties side by side, which were for sale. And incredible to me, the middle one was sold and a house has been built on it. And this is the one to the right of it, now sold and has a house ready to start getting built. So there's a big interest still in building houses in the historic area. I just wanted you guys to understand that. I thought it was very, very interesting. The other thing that's interesting about it is that they have conceived it with an elevator in it already. And the house next door has an elevator as well. So there's a lot more planning going on now for aging in place and, you know, handicap access and things like that in private homes. So that's all I wanted to say to you
Just
guys.
to speak on that, I did meet some people who rented in the area and ended up moving to Dover last year.
Hmm.
They were able to find a house. They could not find a house in Newcastle that didn't get sold
In
right
heartbeat,
away. Yeah, so I mean, they moved to Dover,
Still happening.
but you know. Home ownership is still a big thing and I think we need to see what we can do to promote that and building houses. I think that's better than apartments. At this point, we're gonna be inundated with apartments.
Any more comments? Lastly, I wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the Institute for Public Administration has seminars to educate anyone on a planning commission more about what you're doing. I took the Planning 101 last January. I intend to take it again because it was all new information to me.
Are these covered by the city?
Yes. What I did was I just put it on my credit card, sent them my receipt, and they mailed me a check. So, yeah, they will cover the
Want to buy
cost of
that?
this. Huh?
Yeah, I got the next 3 of their things. Let me tell you what they're about.
But first, I just want to point out the picture is 20 years old.
I understand. By the way, if you go on their website, they took an actual updated photo, if you go on their website. But they used the 20-year-old one every single time, even though I went and got my picture.
Database.
So, so the 3 classes are advanced land use, which are December 20th. That is what has happened new in the last year. So it's a lot of kind of esoteric kind of stuff. It's like all the new cases of what happened. Planning 101 is your base planning. I taught with my friend Ed O'Donnell and David Egel of the Office of State Planning. And that goes into just sort of the whole landscape and how planning fits in. Planning 102, which is in February, I don't remember the dates. I teach that, and that goes into all the laws that go in, that apply to planning commission, et cetera. So I've been doing this for 20 some odd years, and it's a labor of love. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if it's fun for you guys to listen to. It's certainly fun for me to teach.
I learned so much when I took it last January. That's why I want to take it again, just because there was so much and it was all new to me.
I think a lot of it was lost on me because I didn't quite, I hadn't been here long enough to give it context exactly.
So I would encourage you, the 101 and the second one, the introduction to land use administration, both of those are in person in Dover. So if you want, we can carpool or something. The other 2 are online, I believe. So.
That's very helpful.
I have no further comments. Does anybody else? Do I have somebody who is willing to make a motion to adjourn?
Ray Rivera, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Kristen Zumar, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Now, Sarah, I look forward to seeing you in December.
Yes, ma'am.